My name's Amber Athey. I'm a senior in the college studying government and economics. I'm involved in college Republicans and club field hockey.
Where are you from?
I'm from Woodsboro, Maryland.
Okay. And could you give us a little bit of background, some context in terms of your housing situation on campus?
Sure, so I currently live in Burleith on 36th and S Street, which is about a 10-minute walk from campus.
Okay. And have you lived off campus before, or is this the first year?
No, this is the first year. I've lived on campus previously. My freshman year, I lived in New South, and then LXR and Village A.
Okay. And in your experience with housing, has the process been smooth throughout those 4 years, or have there been any changes, any hiccups along the way?
So for senior year, I actually wanted to live on campus, but I didn't receive eligibility, and I had a pretty high number on the waiting list. So I was kind of forced off campus for senior year.
Okay. And that is goes hand in hand with the requirement that the university has, right?
Yeah, the 3-year housing requirement, I believe, has pushed a lot of seniors into a similar situation.
Okay. Could you give us a little bit of background in terms of how you've been affected personally by the requirement to live for students to live on campus, and how you guess that kind of affected you in terms of living off campus?
Yeah, so I actually am considered low income by the university. I'm a member of the Georgetown Scholarship Program, and as I'm sure you're aware, living off campus is a lot more expensive than on-campus housing because of the Georgetown rent prices. So it's definitely forced my family and myself to have a lot harder time paying for housing.
How has that, I guess, affected your day-to-day activities, or affected the way you have to budget your time / your money / I guess, how has it affected your life?
Yeah, so I'm definitely really careful with my spending. I hardly ever go out to eat. The only time that I do is to go to Chipotle because my mom actually gets gift cards from Giant Eagle because they give her gas rewards. So that's like the only restaurant that I eat at. And then when I go out with my friends, I don't go to bars that have like cover charges, and I don't buy drinks at the bar. So I've actually been known to put cans of beer into my purse when I go to bars, and then I ask for a glass of water. And when I finish the glass of water, I take the cans of beer from my purse and pour it into the empty glass. And that's what I drink all night. It's just like Natty Light in a bar glass.
What other ways, has this year been different from previous years? Have you always had to budget really, I guess, effectively, or?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I always have had to. Even growing up, I've always had it kind of ingrained in me. You know, we don't have as much money as other people, so we kind of have to do things a little bit differently. But I would say that I've definitely been a lot more conscious of it living off campus, just because I know that my work money isn't going into my pocket as much as it used to be, and my parents' money isn't able to stay in their accounts as much as it used to be. So I think I'm definitely more aware of my situation than I was before. And I've also noticed changes in my time availability as well. It obviously takes me longer to get to class, especially considering I have a class on M Street in the Berkeley Center. So I actually have to take the circulator down to M Street for my class. And it takes me about like 25 minutes to get there. So that's just like a huge extra commitment that most people don't even realize.
Are there any other similar instances in which your academics have been affected by the situation you're in?
Yeah, I think I was late to class for like the first week or two just because I was adjusting to the new situation. I don't know if that's affected my academic performance or not, but I know that I'm not able to, like, for example, do the readings right up until class starts because I have to budget an extra like 10 to 15 minutes to get to class, and so it does take away studying time.
And in terms of work, and how have you had to pick up extra jobs, or how do you balance the financial amount the financial contribution that you can give in terms of paying for rent?
Yeah, so I've been working since I was a sophomore in high school. I've been a lifeguard during the summer, and I've worked anywhere from 45 to 65 hours a week every summer since I was a sophomore. Unfortunately, this last summer I was not able to do so because I had a summer internship, and I was still making money, but it was significantly less than I was before. So I wasn't really able to use as much money for personal expenses. And the other thing that's an issue is that Georgetown actually factors your student income into the financial aid package. So they actually take, I believe it's $4,000 to $6,000 of whatever you make during the summer. So that money has been going towards paying my tuition anyway, and I've been unable to use it for personal things or for rent, for example.
What services or departments / offices did you try to contact to maybe get a reevaluation of their decision to make you live off campus?
Yeah, so I actually heard or read in housing emails that low-income students were supposed to get automatic on-campus housing regardless of their year. And so when I didn't get eligibility, I was pretty confused. So I emailed a point person at GSP, and they basically said there's really nothing we can do. The financial aid office has determined your situation, and you can go through a lengthy appeals process, but we're not going to be able to help you with that at all. So at that point, it was probably the beginning of spring semester, and I needed somewhere to live over the summer for my internship and obviously for the following school year, and I wanted something guaranteed. I wanted to make sure that I was going to have a place to live, so I didn't really see the rationale in either doing an appeals process that could take months or waiting to get off of the wait list, which could never happen. So at that point, I decided to try to find somewhere off campus to live.
And they didn't offer any financial aid counselors or anyone you could, apart from the people within GSP, there wasn't anyone else who tried to reach out to you? Or
no one reached out to me, but I did sit down with a financial aid counselor to ask about increasing my financial aid since I was going to be living off campus. And basically she said that whatever you were given for housing on campus would still apply for off campus. So you would still get like the same amount, but obviously living off campus is more expensive. And so all of my housing was going towards my rent, and they completely failed to realize that I didn't have a meal plan anymore. So the money that would have been paying for my meal plan was now redirected all towards rent. So all of my housing aid was going to rent, so I still have to worry about food, transportation, all of those other expenses.
Wow. What was your reaction when you figured that out?
Well, I was pretty pissed off. My mom was livid. I remember she actually called the same counselor and talked to her and asked if there was anything she could do, and they just kept saying, no, there's nothing we can do. So it's pretty frustrating for me because this was really the first time as a low-income student that I felt that Georgetown has really been unable or unwilling to help me.
And I guess once you came to campus, were there any first decisions that you had to take in terms of, okay, we won't have a meal plan, I have to find these other jobs, I have to, I guess, commit myself to extra work so that I can pay for it. What were your thoughts once you came to campus and you realized that you would be faced with, I guess, higher prices in terms of living on campus?
Yeah, I actually talked to my family about picking up an extra job during the summer on top of my full-time internship. I wanted to waitress on the weekends to try to make some extra money. And my parents basically said, no, we're not going to force you to do that. We're not going to make you continue to work 60 hours a week while you have a full-time internship. So my dad took on a couple of extra hours at his job, and my mom actually cleans houses part-time. So she continued to do that, and I think most of her money actually went towards helping me pay for my housing. So it's pretty hard for me because I'm a pretty hard worker and I like to be able to pay for things by myself. And so to have my parents basically have to do more work to support me is really hard for me to watch.
Was there anyone else on campus who, went through similar experiences? Do you think this is a unique situation, or perhaps that there's something bigger that's going on, some problem within housing, the administration that's not working properly in terms of addressing some of these problems?
I don't know anyone specifically that's had a similar situation as me, but I do know people who applied for housing just in case they didn't get an off-campus place, and they were granted eligibility before I was. So that was pretty annoying to me that people who weren't even planning on living on campus were able to get eligibility, whereas a low-income student in GSP was completely forced out and basically screwed over. I think I was in like the 200s on the waiting list. So there was they even told me there's no way you're getting off the wait list. And yet, I have friends who were applying and getting it right away, and they were just going to drop off anyway. So, yeah.
And I guess kind of building off of that, do you think that there's enough being done on campus in terms of trying to advocate for maybe some changes within the way that eligibility works, or providing more information to students so that they can know the way things work?
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of advocacy in terms of student input in the construction process for building more on-campus housing, but I'm not sure if there's any process in terms of trying to educate students who aren't able to be on campus, financial eligibility, advocating for changing the housing process. Those are things that I think students have been absolutely silent on. And I think part of it is that they don't even realize that this bothers people because they hear from people who just wanted to live off campus anyway or have the means to do so. And meanwhile, students who are really struggling off campus aren't being heard from. And it's pretty disappointing. There's more to it than just where is this building going to go on campus or what kind of amenities is it going to have. That's not really going to help the people who can't be on campus in the first place.